welcome everybody. And today we're going to be talking about podcasts. And I don't know if anybody has used podcasts or views podcasts at all before, but even if you have or you haven't, we can go through, what a podcast is and what it's all about and so on. So does anybody use podcasts?
No. Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got one at least. Yeah. Okay, so a podcast really is like a recording, like it's a radio, like a radio recording. What we're going to go through is what is it? What's a podcast? Then we're going to look at, selecting the podcast player, what you're using, smartphone or tablet, computer, car, and so on. Top 10 podcasts and subscribing to series. I'm going to show you what the top 10 podcasts that are in this presentation. They're not the top 10 decided by, some person who's very avid podcast watcher. It's decided by the person who wrote this PowerPoint presentation, and he's one of our IT for Retirees trainers. So anyway, we can have a look at those. It gives you a little bit of information, and it might inspire you to listen to some podcasts yourselves. And also just need to tell you that this is being recorded today. And the recording will be available, as will also the presentation if you're interested to have that. So what is a podcast? So it's really a radio show on the internet, often recorded rather than broadcast live. And you can listen when it suits you. So that's a good thing about it. You don't have to listen, when it's on, when it's actually being broadcast. They are released on a semi-regular basis. So some podcasts come out weekly or daily, and some are just a one-off event. And they can be structured or conversational. So, it can be like, a structured type of podcast, or can just really be like conversations that people are having, almost like a blog. And pretty much most of them are free. So as such, you do need to have a device that can connect to the internet to download or stream the podcast. And once downloaded onto your device, all you need to do is to play it. It will take up space on your device, but if your device is backing up to the cloud, then it should be going to the cloud. Streaming, of course, it won't be. If you take a podcast via streaming, it's not staying on your device. It's just coming to you right at that point and not being saved. But note also that downloading or streaming does use up data, and be mindful, of listening via mobile data or Wi-Fi. So, plus your data limit. So if you're listening, if you're streaming via data on your tablet or your phone, it could use up a fair bit of your data. Probably better off to be on Wi-Fi. There's a few different podcasts. The podcasts aren't generally broadcast live, they're recorded, meaning you can listen whenever you want to, and pretty much mostly they happen once a week. Although I have seen some that are daily, and like radio shows and so on are daily. So there's an entire world really of podcasts out there, and I'm sure that anybody can find their companion for what they're looking for, and depending on what you're doing at the time, if you're just laying back listening, or you're actually cooking or doing a bit of housework or something like that at the time. So you can do podcasts on your smartphone or on your tablet. So Apple iPhones and iPads, they have a podcast app already comes pre-installed. It's that little purple one there. Android, smartphones and tablets and so on, you can have a Google podcast. That's the stripy one underneath the Apple app. There's lots of other apps. I mean, they're not the only two. I mean, even on an Apple iPad or phone or Android, Samsung or whatever, there are other apps that you can use. You don't have to use those. Spotify, iTunes is also available. iHeartRadio, there's just, numerous options. Headphones for podcast listening is probably a good idea. If you're on your own, maybe it's okay to play through a speaker, that's fine. But, if you're around other people or for example, somebody's watching TV and you're not interested, you could podcast from your handheld device and stick your earphones on and, not hear what's on TV and listen to your podcast instead. So, you can get the headphones that just go on your ear. So that's a little bit like what I've got here that just gets over my ear. Or you've got these white ones here on this slide that show like the whole over the earpiece ones. And they're really good because they block out, or any sort of surrounding noise. And of course there's earbuds, and earbuds are typically what you get when you buy an iPhone or whatever. You normally get earbuds with it. And they're quite good. I've used those. I used those actually just last week, listening to a podcast while football was on, and it worked quite well. I didn't hear any of the footy. And you do need to have internet. So Wi-Fi versus mobile data. So Wi-Fi, of course, if you're going to download, it's probably better off to download while you're on the internet. And but once you've saved it onto your device, you can then listen to it any other time, and you don't have to necessarily be on internet to do that. So practically every device on the market has at least one way to listen, and most smartphones and tablets actually have many ways to listen. So if you've got a smartphone in your pocket or a tablet close by, you're already and can have, an ideal podcast listening platform just there with those two things. Every smart device comes with a default app to play the podcast, but you don't be overwhelmed by all the choices. Start with the app that's already on your device. I think that's probably a good option. On most podcasts run under 100 megabytes, which in today's world is almost nothing. So in terms of data, if you're streaming, it's not going to really use up too much. Certainly when you're on Wi-Fi anyway. Using your computer, also possible to podcast on the computer. So using, Windows desktop or laptop, you just navigate to the website, iTunes or Spotify, and there's numerous, podcasts available in iTunes and Spotify. Apps can be downloaded from the Microsoft Store as well. Apple MacBooks or iMacs, and they also have podcast apps or websites available for podcasting. So it's all there. All you really have to do is, search for it. If you go, on your computer and you just go into the search bar in the bottom left corner, like on a Microsoft or Windows 10 computer, in the Cortana area, you can just type in there, podcast, and huge amounts of information comes up. So, or even just go onto the browser and type in podcasts, and you'll get podcasts, and you'll also get apps that are available to enable you to listen to a podcast. So how does it work? Well, nearly every podcast has a play function directly on the episode pages. Navigate to the podcast page and look for the play button and listen. Similarly, you can play a show right inside one of the directory apps on your computer. The most popular examples of these are iTunes and Spotify. So if you've got either of those apps on your computer, navigate to the podcast section. I think normally when you open up iTunes, it opens up normally with music, but you can navigate then across to the podcast section and browse around and hit play. Even better, if you use a Spotify app, you can listen on your phone and then subscribe. And it carries right over the whole platform. So it's quite seamless and very easy to use. You can also listen to a podcast in your car, which I think is a really great option because, sometimes you just get sick of the same music playing all the time if you're on a long trip. And even actually on a long trip, sometimes you can't, sometimes you lose service, there's no radio and, it just falls quiet. You can Bluetooth your phone to through your car, and it pairs with your speakers and you'll hear it through the radio speakers. That's a pretty standard sort of a thing anyway. For people that have got, this sort of action going on in their car, like Apple CarPlay and so on, are people using that? Okay, so when I get in the car, my car, I just plug, actually, as soon as I get in, it comes up on my radio that my phone is connected to the car. And so then if I plug it in to the car, I can actually even speak through it. Like I could send text messages and everything just through voice while I'm in the car. And that's how I would be able to hear podcasts because I've got what's called Apple CarPlay. But even if you don't have that, my car's only a couple of years old. Even if you don't have that, even, cars have those ability to stick the little cable that's got like a little pointy dot. Most cars have that option to stick that in, and you can plug that into the other end of your phone and the same option will come. You'll still be able to hear it. So it's called aux in, AUX in. So it's an auxiliary cable that plugs in. And so you'll be able to hear the podcast even on your car. So, for example, you could subscribe and download, or you don't even have to subscribe, but you could download a podcast or a few podcasts. So then they're already on your device, and then you don't need to have, Wi-Fi available to be able to play those. You can just play them because they're playing off your device. There's also the option to Bluetooth to a speaker. It's similar to Bluetoothing to your car speaker. And and it's also similar, I suppose, to having, like Google Home and Apple Home and, all those like Amazon Echo and so on that connects your whole house actually to Wi-Fi, where you can just actually tell anything to do anything. I don't have any of that going on. I must admit, I'm not that keen to have that amount of, I don't know. Somehow I just don't feel like I want to have too many things listening and to what I'm saying or what I'm talking about. And I already find sometimes my iPad will say to me, sorry, I didn't hear what you said. And I wasn't even speaking to it. So, there is this option that, sometimes they are listening. And so I don't want to do that connecting my house to anything. But certainly I do have Bluetooth speakers, and they're really great because you can just charge them up with electricity. You just plug them in and charge them. And when they're full, you can take them outside. You can take them anywhere. You can take them in your caravan, and you can be anywhere you like, and you can Bluetooth your device, your laptop, or not your laptop, sorry, but your iPad or your phone to a Bluetooth speaker, and you could then listen to the podcast through a speaker. And of course, the sound of that is much better. And if you've got a few people who are interested, maybe yourself and your husband, and you're interested in the same podcast, you could play it on a speaker and you'd get really good sound. And it'd be, worth it. You wouldn't have to have your earphones on. So that's another option. Does anyone have Bluetooth speakers? I've got a few of them, and they're actually quite cheap and they're really good, because the sound that you get out of the speaker of a handheld device is nowhere near as good as the sound that you get actually out of a speaker. So, but anyway, that's just another option. I've done it. I must admit, for me, we've just got a caravan. We've just had a caravan for 1 year, and we've been away in it once, and before the COVID hit, and it was really good. I took the Bluetooth speaker, and I've got an iPad, an iPhone, and so on, and I could, listen to the radio on the speaker, and any show that I wanted to, we listened to on the speaker. It's really, it's really good. Now, these are what the person, Ian, who wrote this presentation, thinks is his 10 top podcasts. So there might be something in that for you all as well. Certainly Conversations, ABC Conversations, I've listened a little bit to that, but I'm probably not interested in local legends at Randwick. Ian's from Sydney, so he's probably interested in that. So there is something really for everyone. So when you go to look for podcasts, there's so many options that you can search under. You can search under like the genre, crime, health, drama, all sorts of options. Like, for example, if I'll just open one here on my iPad, and I'll just have a look at what comes up. It's very similar to what would you say, like when you go to the App Store, firstly you see what's featured, and then you might see what are their picks and so on. So there's all different options to search by. So if I go to on my iPad, I can just look up browse, and it comes up with under browse there's a topic, or lots of topics, but there's featured, there's news and noteworthy, top shows, and then there's top episodes of certain shows as well. And then you can do categories like society and culture, comedy, health and fitness, sports, true crime, and there's lots of things. And then there's like a breakdown underneath that also. So even if you chose sport, you could then break that down to NRL, AFL, and so on. So there's almost like too much available. There's so many things that you could look at. So that's under browse, and then when you download something or subscribe to something, it goes into your library. So if we take a look at subscribing, so when you subscribe, that means, so just say you subscribe to a series. So it might be, say it's ABC Conversations. So that means that every time an episode updates, your app will also update, your podcast app, and that subscription to ABC Conversations will update. And I think Conversations might be almost every day. So every time you open your app, you'll see the conversations from, yesterday, the day before, and the day before. So each day you open it, you'll see the previous day. So it's updating all the time because you subscribe to it. A lot of them are free. ABC Conversations is free to subscribe. And then you can just pick whatever episode you want to watch. You don't have to watch all of them. And just because you subscribe to something doesn't mean you have to subscribe forever. You can decide to cancel the subscription at any time, and have subscribed to something else. But when you do subscribe, you'll see it in your library, and you can listen at your leisure. So that's probably the good thing about that they're always going to be there as soon as you open your app, and you don't have to listen to it when it first comes there. You can listen to it anytime you like. So it's quite a good idea actually to subscribe. It really depends what you want to do. I mean, sometimes I've just done some streaming, where I've listened to something just off the cuff, because that's what I was interested in. For example, Trace. Trace is something that I've listened to recently, and that's the one with the lawyer ex, the police informer in Victoria, and she's a lawyer. So that's a crime series that's been on. Now, I've listened to the first one, and I've probably listened to the second one. I haven't subscribed to it because I just think I'll listen when I feel like it. It's not, mind-bending if I don't. So it depends on how you want to do it. If it's something that you really like, I suggest you subscribe so you don't miss it. When you subscribe, the show starts automatically coming to you. So next time you open your app, as I said, the latest episode will be there. If you're listening on your computer, then the easiest way to subscribe is through the iTunes app or the Spotify app. Only trouble with your computer is really that then, you're sort of stuck there at the computer listening to it. Not like listening on a iPad or a phone, on a handheld device where you can, be sitting almost anywhere. If you're on a computer, then pretty much you're really stuck there in front of it listening. It might be all right. You might be working away doing other things. And really, I suppose it's a little bit like an audio book to some extent. I don't know. I've never had an audio book, I must admit, so I don't know how long you can go for in one session. But certainly, on a podcast, I think you can go minimum at least, an hour. I don't know that you'd probably want to be listening more than that anyway to something. You could learn a language. You might even want to, a couple of times a week, go to a language podcast and learn how to speak another language. So there's lots of different options, and I just suggest to you, just go and have a play around. If you're interested in podcasts, that's all. If you're not, then don't worry about it. But certainly just go and have a play around and see what you can find. You might find actually that you really like it. And I found I was living overseas for a long time, and I found I used to podcast quite a lot because I couldn't get any Australian shows or anything. So I podcast the 7:30 report and Q&A and Insight, and I used to watch them every week. On my they not only podcast, they were viewing, so I could see that and hear it, and it was fantastic to be able to do that. So there's a lot of reasons for doing it. What I might do is I want to run through also this Be Connected thing, small presentation. I do have a recording, but I tried to play it this morning for another session that I did, and they could see the recording, but they couldn't hear it. So I think it might be better if I actually just go through this and explain to you about Be Connected and what the benefits are of Be Connected. So this is about helping people over 55 become more computer literate and helping to improve digital literacy. It's free, it's available 24/7, it's continually updated, and you can learn at your own pace. So Be Connected provides grants, government money to organisations, say, for example, like Stockland, who can apply for a grant, and those grants can then be used to hire, contractors like us, like IT for Retirees, to do these sorts of things where we run presentations and so on in this Get Online Week. And not just Get Online Week, this is my job, this is what I do for IT for Retirees. And mostly it comes from grants that are, given from this, from the Be Connected esafety.gov.au to organisations who want to help people over 55 or 50, benefits Australians over 50, and that it should be no cost to people. So it's about understanding the basics and realising the full potential of going online, and how to be safe online. I ran a presentation the other day showing people about safety, e-safety, and how to recognise a scam and so on. Talk to and see your family and friends when they live far away from you. That's another option of, being online. Find new or old friends who share interests and hobbies, and keep up to date with what's happening in your community and around the world. And so that's really just the start. It's not threatening, and it's fun and hands-on. So what it means is you just go to the Be Connected site on this www.beconnected.esafety.gov.au and you can register. So you can register online. So you need to have an email address. You just need to have a computer or a tablet or a smartphone, and internet access, of course. And you register with an email address, and you can get onto the site. You'll be a member, and there's lots and lots of learning modules on there, and those modules range from like very, very easy beginner level modules right through to a little bit more advanced. And providing you've got a willingness to learn and time to practice, it's probably a really worthwhile thing to do, because it's free. It will help you with pretty much everything. There's, courses on there on, how to do online banking, online shopping, safety online, social media. So if you're somebody that's just starting out with, getting online and becoming a little bit more computer literate, it's a good place to start. There's exercises that you can do, through all the levels. You can resize the text to make it easier to read. And you can scroll down through all the options and select whatever you want to do. There's a library of topics that are there that you can learn, and a short 2 to 5 minute recording that you can watch multiple times over and over. So it's worthwhile. I recommend that, you have a look at it. If you're that way inclined, if you're willing to do that and you're interested in learning more. As I said, there's like the absolute basics, getting to know your devices, getting started online, and games, online hobbies, all about apps, all about data, how to connect to others. And there's then things that are specific to the device, like Apple or Android. Introduction to MyGov. So there's a lot of information on there, and free presentations and webinars. You only need a smartphone and an internet to join those as well. And you'll be able to, set up like my training course, and you'll be able to see what you've, mastered and gotten through. So it's really interesting. There's a lot, says there, 23 topics and growing. So you make your own learning plan, and there's plenty of help available, and you record each module as you complete it. So it's something that you can sort of like, if you're interested in doing that sort of thing, something that you can work through yourself, and you just learn at your own pace, and there's no pressure. That's the really good thing about it. And, you know, if you're up at, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning because you can't sleep, you could, you know, go and do a module on Be Connected. So there's a lot of benefits coming from that. And so I have to, as part of this Get Online week, we have to mention Be Connected, because Be Connected is partly responsible for the Get Online week and bringing all this technology to people that's been happening all this week. Be Connected, it's the same. IT for retirees. You know, we are employed. So when organisations like, say, Stockland, or, you know, lots of other retirement villages and so on, Probus and so on, they apply for the grants. They get the grants. Then they decide, you know, what they want to do. We've been to, you know, retirement villages where we run courses, where they've had grants to run courses, say, once a week for 4 weeks, and it'll be, you know, in the same day you will do Apple, Samsung, and say Windows 10, and then, you know, and it'll be some part of that. It might be contacts and emails, or contacts and files and folders, and then the following week it'll be all the devices again and another topic. And so that, sometimes the grants have paid for that sort of training, like a classroom activity. And then quite often, even after those classroom activities, then people will say, look, that's all good. I'm happy with that, but now I just want to know what I want to know. And, you know, sometimes we just go to people's houses and just do training on specific topics that people themselves are interested to learn. So that's how I'm involved in Be Connected week. In Get Online week, because I work for IT for Retirees. In fact, IT for Retirees is the organisation that has pretty much set up every one of the sessions this week in Zoom, and pretty much run the whole schedule for all the hosts and all the presenters. So it's been a really good week. Really good week. Very happy with it so far. Lots of information.